I did not plan to embarrass a mafia boss at his own cousin's wedding. I was there to work, nothing more. The Augustine Hotel hired me 6 months ago for a junior event coordinator position. This particular wedding was lavish and excessive, clearly dripping with old money and older secrets. It was my crucial chance to prove I could handle high-profile clients without flinching. I wore my most professional black dress, kept my hair pinned back, and carried my tablet like a shield. I checked floral arrangements, coordinated with the kitchen staff, and ensured the string quartet had enough champagne. I was invisible. That was the goal until I heard him speak. The reception hall was all marble and gold, chandeliers throwing soft light across hundreds of guests in designer suits and silk gowns. I stood near the back, confirming the timing for the cake service, when a voice cut through the noise. Low, smooth, laced with something sharp. Sicilian. I had grown up hearing it. My grandmother, Nonna Cecilia, had refused to speak anything else at home until I turned 12. She had been born in Palermo, raised in a village where distrust of outsiders was taught before the alphabet. She had made sure I understood every word, every inflection, and every insult hidden beneath politeness. So when I heard the man say, "Parla come si non sapessi niente," I froze. He said, "This one is too small to be here. Look at her acting like a little girl who does not know where she is." I turned slowly. He stood near the bar, surrounded by men in tailored black suits. He was taller than the rest, broader in the shoulders, with dark hair swept back, and a face that would have been handsome if it were not so cold. His eyes were pale gray or green. I could not tell from the distance, and they flicked over me with the kind of dismissiveness that made my stomach twist. He said something else, quieter this time, and the men around him laughed. My cheeks burned. I should have walked away. I should have let it go. But my Nana's voice echoed in my head. "Julia, never let yourself be trampled, Julia. Never." I crossed the room before I could think better of it. "Excuse me," I said, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. "If you have concerns about the event staff, you are welcome to speak to my supervisor." He turned to me, one dark brow lifting. His expression did not change. Still cool, still indifferent, but something flickered in his eyes. "I do not think you understood me," he said in English, his accent faint but unmistakable. "Capisco perfettamente," I replied. "I understand perfectly." The laughter around him died. His gaze sharpened, and for the first time, he looked at me. Really looked. Not through me, not past me, but at me. "Siciliano?" he asked, his tone shifting into something unreadable. "Siciliano," I confirmed, lifting my chin. No, I am not a little girl." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. One of the men beside him muttered something under his breath. Another shifted uncomfortably. But the man in the center, the one who had mocked me, did not move. He studied me the way someone might study a puzzle they had not expected to find. Then slowly, he smiled. It was not warm. It was not kind. It was the smile of a predator who just found something interesting. "Come ti chiami?" he asked. "What is your name?" I hesitated. Something told me that answering him was a mistake, that this moment was a door I should not walk through. But I had already spoken. I had already stepped into his line of sight. "Julia," I said quietly. "Julia," he repeated, testing the shape of it. Then he switched back to English. "You should be more careful, Julia. Not everyone appreciates being corrected," I replied. "Then maybe they should not mock people in languages they assume no one else speaks." His smile widened just slightly, and something cold slid down my spine. "Interessant," he murmured. "Interesting." Before I could respond, my supervisor's voice cut through the tension. "Julia, I need you in the kitchen now." I stepped back, my pulse racing, and forced myself to turn away, but I felt his gaze on me the entire walk across the room. I learned his name an hour later. "Do you have any idea who that was?" my supervisor hissed as we stood in the service hallway. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "That was Dante Vitali." The name meant nothing to me. "He is the head of the Vitali family," she continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "One of the most powerful families in the city. You do not talk back to men like him, Julia. You do not even look at them unless they tell you to." My stomach dropped. "I did not know," I said. "It does not matter what you knew." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "Just stay out of his sight for the rest of the night, please." I nodded, my throat tight. But when I returned to the reception hall to oversee the cake service, I saw him again. He was standing near the entrance, speaking to an older man in a gray suit. His posture was relaxed, his hands in his pockets, but there was something about the way everyone around him moved carefully, respectfully, and fearfully that made my skin prickle. And then, As if he felt me watching, he turned his head. Our eyes met across the room. He did not smile this time. He just looked at me, steady and unblinking, and I felt the weight of it like a hand around my throat. Then he turned back to his conversation, and I forced myself to breathe. I did not see him again that night, but when I left the hotel at midnight, exhausted and rattled, I found a black car idling at the curb. The back window rolled down. Dante Vitale looked out at me, his expression unreadable. "Julia," he said quietly, "get in." I froze. "I am fine walking," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I am not asking," he replied. The door opened, and I realized with a cold, creeping certainty that my life had just changed in a way I did not yet understand. I did not get in the car, not at first. I stood there on the sidewalk, my bag clutched against my ribs, staring at the open door like it was a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. Dante Vitale watched me from the back seat, his expression calm and patient, like he knew I would either step inside or spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I had. "I do not accept rides from strangers," I said, hating how thin my voice sounded. "We are not strangers anymore," he replied evenly. "You corrected me in my own language. That makes us acquainted." "That makes us nothing," I said. His gaze did not waver. "Get in the car, Julia." "Why?" I asked. "Because I want to talk to you. So talk from there." A faint smile touched his mouth. Amused, maybe, or irritated. I could not tell. "You are brave," he said quietly, "or foolish. I have not decided which." "Maybe both," I replied. "Maybe." He leaned back slightly, his hand resting on the edge of the seat. "If I wanted to hurt you, I would not need to ask you to get in. I would simply take you." The words should have terrified me. They did, but they also made something clear. He was giving me a choice. A twisted, dangerous choice, but a choice nonetheless. I thought of my supervisor's pale face, the way the men around him had gone silent, and the weight of his name, Dante Vitale. I should have walked away. Instead, I got in. The car was cold. Leather seats, tinted windows, and the faint smell of expensive cologne. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and suddenly the noise of the street disappeared. It was just the two of us. Dante sat across from me, one arm draped casually along the back of the seat. He studied me the way someone might study a painting, carefully and thoughtfully, like he was deciding whether it was worth keeping. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Nowhere yet." "Then why am I here?" "I wanted to see if you would get in." My hands tightened around my bag. "Why does that matter?" "Because most people do not." He tilted his head slightly. "Most people hear my name and do exactly what they are told. No questions, no hesitation." "Maybe they are smarter than me," I said. "Maybe." The driver pulled away from the curb, smooth and silent, and I felt my pulse spike. "Where is he taking us?" "Relax, Julia." Dante's voice was soft, almost soothing. "I am bringing you home. You do not know where I live." He did not answer, and that was when I realized he already knew. We drove in silence for several minutes. I kept my gaze on the window, watching the city lights blur past, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart. "Your grandmother," Dante said suddenly. "Where was she from?" I turned to him, surprised. "Why do you want to know?" "Your Sicilian is old," he said. "Proper. The kind that is taught at home, not in the classroom." I hesitated. "Palermo." "What part?" "A village outside the city. I do not remember the name." He nodded slowly as if that confirmed something. "And she taught you to speak back," he said. "To stand your ground. She taught me not to let people disrespect me, even dangerous people. She did not make exceptions." A faint smile crossed his face. Genuine this time, I thought. "I would have liked her," he said. "She would have hated you." He laughed low and quiet, and the sound sent a strange shiver through me. "Probably," he agreed. The car slowed, and I realized we were on my street, my small, unremarkable street lined with old apartment buildings and corner stores that stayed open too late. The driver stopped in front of my building. I stared at Dante, my throat tight. "How did you know where I live?" "I know a lot of things, Julia." He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, his gaze steady on mine. "Your name, where you live, where you work, and how long you have been in the city." "Is that necessary?" I asked. He interrupted gently. "You embarrassed me in front of my men. I needed to know who you were." "And now you do," I said. "Now I do." I reached for the door handle, but his voice stopped me. "One more thing." I looked back at him. "You are going to see me again," he said quietly. "Soon." "Why?" "Because I have not decided what to do with you yet." The words hung in the air, cold and certain. I swallowed hard. "I am not yours to do anything with." "Not yet," he replied. I pushed the door open and stepped out into the cold night air, my legs shaking. But before I could close the door, he spoke again. Accura, Giulia. Be careful, Giulia. The door closed and the car pulled away, disappearing into the darkness. I stood there for a long time, staring after it, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. The roses arrived 3 days later, 24 of them, deep red, arranged in a crystal vase that probably cost more than my rent. They were waiting on my desk when I arrived at work. Petals perfect, thorns carefully trimmed. No card, no note, just roses. Someone has an admirer, my coworker teased, leaning over my cubicle divider. Who is the guy? I do not know. I lied. But I did know. I knew exactly who they were from. I tried to ignore them. I focused on work, coordinating events, managing schedules, and answering emails. I told myself that Dante Vitali was just a man with too much power and too much time. I thought he would lose interest once he realized I was not interesting, but the roses kept coming. Every 3 days, a new arrangement appeared at my apartment and my desk. Once, a vase was sitting on the hood of my car in the parking garage, somehow unbroken despite the freezing temperature. There was never a card, never an explanation, just roses and the unspoken message beneath them. I know where you are. By the second week, my supervisor pulled me aside. Giulia, she said carefully, her voice low. I do not know what is going on, but you need to be careful. I am being careful, I said. No, she glanced toward the roses on my desk. You do not understand. Men like Dante Vitali do not send flowers because they are nice. They send them because they want something. I have not done anything. It does not matter what you have done. Her hand tightened on my arm. It matters what he thinks you have done or what he wants you to do. I pulled away gently. I am fine. But I was not fine. The 3rd week, the roses stopped. I told myself I was relieved. I told myself I was glad. But when I came home to my apartment that Friday night, exhausted and cold, I found something else waiting for me. A book. It sat on my doorstep, wrapped in brown paper, tied with black string. My hands shook as I picked it up. Inside was a collection of Sicilian poetry. Old, leather-bound, the kind of book you would find in an estate sale or a forgotten library. And on the first page, written in black ink, Pii quando si stanca di fingere che non mi pensi. For when you get tired of pretending you do not think of me. There was no signature, but I knew. I did not sleep that night. I sat on my couch with the book in my lap, staring at the inscription, my mind racing. He was watching me. He knew where I lived, where I worked, and what I did. And instead of feeling afraid, I felt something else, something I did not want to name. The next morning, I decided to confront him. I did not know where he lived, but I knew where his family did business. A restaurant in the old district, upscale and exclusive, the kind of place where you needed a reservation months in advance. I walked in without one. The manager tried to stop me, but I pushed past him, ignoring his protests, my heart pounding. And there, in a private booth near the back, I saw him. Dante Vitali. He was alone, reading something on his phone, a glass of wine untouched in front of him. He looked up as I approached, and his expression did not change. No surprise, no hardening. He just looked at me like he had been expecting me. Giulia, he said quietly. Sit. I do not want to sit. Then stand. I crossed my arms, trying to steady my breathing. You need to stop. Stop what? He asked. The flowers, the book, all of it. He set his phone down, his gaze never leaving mine. Why? Because it is invasive. Is it? Yes. He leaned back, studying me. You came all the way here to tell me that. Yes. Then you are thinking about me. I froze. If you were not, he continued, his voice soft, you would have thrown the roses away. You would have ignored the book. But you did not. You kept them. And now you are here. I am here to tell you to leave me alone. No, he said gently. You are here because you want to know why I am not leaving you alone. The truth of it hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Dante stood slowly, and suddenly the space between us felt impossibly small. You are afraid of me, he said quietly, but not for the reason you think. I am not afraid of you, I insisted. Yes, you are. He stepped closer and I forced myself not to move. You are afraid because you do not understand why I matter to you. You are afraid because you have not told anyone and you have not run. You are afraid, he continued, his voice dropping, because part of you wants to stay. I stared at him, my chest tight and my pulse racing. You do not know me, I whispered. Not yet. He reached out slowly, and I felt his fingers brush against my wrist. It was barely a touch, but it burned. Vai via, Giulia, he murmured, Go, Julia. If you want me to stop, leave now. Do not come back. Forget my name. I did not move. But if you stay, he said quietly, his gaze locked on mine, then you are choosing this. You are choosing me. I should have left. I should have walked out of that restaurant and never looked back. But I did not. I stood there trembling and I did not move. Dante Vitali smiled. I sat down. I did not mean to. My legs simply gave out, folding beneath me as I sank into the leather booth across from him. My hands were shaking, so I pressed them flat against the table, trying to anchor myself. Dante watched me, his expression unreadable. Wine, he asked. I do not drink coffee, I replied. Then he gestured to a server, silent and efficient, who appeared at the table within seconds. Dante murmured something in Italian, and the man disappeared. We sat in silence. I did not know what to say. I did not know what I was doing here. You are angry, Dante said finally, and confused about all of it. I looked at him, forcing myself to meet his gaze. Why me? You do not know me. I am nobody. You are not nobody. I work in event planning. I rent a studio apartment. I take the bus to work. My voice cracked slightly. I am nobody to someone like you. Dante leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, his gaze steady. You stood in a room full of dangerous men, he said quietly, and you did not flinch. You heard me insult you, and instead of shrinking, you answered back in my language without hesitation. Most people spend their entire lives trying not to be seen by men like me. He continued. You walked straight toward me. You made yourself visible. Do you understand how rare that is? I swallowed hard. Maybe I was just stupid. Maybe. A faint smile touched his mouth, but I do not think so. The server returned with a silver tray. Espresso for me and another glass of wine for him. I wrapped my hands around the small cup, grateful for the warmth. I did not ask for this, I said quietly. I know. Then why are you doing it? He was silent for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. Because I want to, he said finally. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. I stared at him, searching his face for something. Guilt, amusement, or cruelty. But all I saw was calm certainty. What do you want from me? I asked. I do not know yet. That is not reassuring. I am not trying to reassure you. He lifted his glass, his gaze never leaving mine. I am trying to be honest. We talked for an hour. He asked questions and I answered. Where I grew up, how I learned Sicilian, why I came to the city, and what I wanted. I tried to ask him questions in return, but he deflected them smoothly, turning the conversation back to me with the skill of someone who had spent a lifetime avoiding scrutiny. You are good at this, I said finally. At what? Making people feel like they matter. He tilted his head slightly. You think I am pretending. I think you are practiced. Maybe, he set his glass down. Or maybe I am just interested in you. Yes. The word hung between us, simple and heavy. I looked away, my cheeks burning. I should go, I said, reaching for my bag. Not yet, Dante said. Stay. His voice was quiet but firm. Please. I froze, my hand on the strap of my bag. He had said please. I did not know why that mattered, but it did. I sat back slowly and he nodded, satisfied. I need you to understand something, he said after a moment. What? I asked. The world I live in. It is not kind. It is not safe. And once you are part of it, even at the edges, you cannot simply walk away. I am not part of it, I insisted. You are now. His gaze was steady and unflinching. The moment you spoke to me, you became visible. And in my world, visibility is dangerous. Then let me disappear. I cannot. Why not? Because others have seen you with me. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. At the wedding, and here, they will assume you are important to me. I am not. It does not matter what is true, he interrupted gently. It matters what they believe. A chill slid down my spine. So what does that mean? It means I cannot let you go. Not yet. He paused. Not until I am sure you are safe. Safe from who? From everyone. I stared at him, my pulse racing. You are saying I am in danger because I talk to you. Yes. That is insane. That is my life. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I did not ask for this. I did not ask for any of this. I know. Then fix it. I am trying. By sending me flowers, my voice rose. By watching me, by dragging me into something I do not understand. Dante stood as well, and suddenly the space between us felt suffocating. I am protecting you, he said quietly. I do not need your protection. Yes, you do. His gaze was hard now, unyielding. You just do not know it yet. I turned to leave, but his hand closed around my wrist. Not rough, but firm enough to stop me. "Julia." I looked back at him, my breath catching. "I know this is frightening," he said, his voice softer now. "I know you did not choose this, but I am asking you to trust me. I do not even know you. Then let me show you." I pulled my wrist free, my heart pounding. "I need to think." "All right," he nodded slowly. "I will take you home. I can take the bus." "No," he said firmly. "You cannot." And the way he said it, calm and absolute, made me realize he was not asking. The drive back to my apartment was silent. I sat as far from him as the back seat would allow. My arms were crossed and my gaze was fixed on the window, but I felt him watching me. When we stopped in front of my building, I reached for the door handle, but his voice stopped me. "Julia." I did not turn around. "I meant what I said," he continued quietly. "I am trying to keep you safe, but I can only do that if you let me. I do not need a bodyguard. You need more than that." He paused. "And whether you believe it or not, I am the only one who can give it to you." I did not answer. I stepped out of the car and walked into my building without looking back. But as I climbed the stairs to my apartment, my hands still shaking, I knew one thing for certain. He was right. I was already part of his world, and I had no idea how to escape. I did not see Dante for 5 days. No roses, no books, and no calls. I told myself I was relieved. I told myself I could go back to normal, my quiet, unremarkable life where dangerous men did not know my name or where I lived. But normal did not feel normal anymore. I checked over my shoulder when I walked to my car. I hesitated before unlocking my apartment door. I scanned every face in the coffee shop, the grocery store, and the hotel lobby, looking for someone watching me, and I hated that I noticed his absence. On the 6th day, something changed. I was leaving work late, past midnight. The hotel lobby empty except for the night staff. I had stayed to finalize the details for an anniversary gala, and by the time I finished, the parking garage was almost deserted. My car was on the 3rd level, parked near the back where the lighting was dim and flickering. I walked quickly, my keys clutched between my fingers, my breath fogging in the cold air, and then I heard footsteps behind me. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. My pulse spiked. I turned slowly, scanning the rows of cars, but saw nothing. Just shadows and concrete, and the faint hum of the overhead lights. "Hello," I called, my voice thin. No answer. I turned back toward my car, walking faster now, my heart hammering. The footsteps started again, closer this time. I broke into a run. I did not make it 10 feet before a hand closed around my arm, yanking me backward. I screamed, twisting and trying to pull free, but the grip was iron tight. "Shut up," a voice hissed. Male, rough, and unfamiliar. I drove my elbow back, connecting with something solid, and the man grunted. His grip loosened and I wrenched free, stumbling forward. But there were 2 of them. The second man stepped out from behind a van, blocking my path. He was larger than the first, his face hidden beneath a hood, his hands empty but ready. "We just want to talk," the first man said, his voice mockingly calm. "Stay away from me," I gasped, backing toward the wall. "You have been spending time with Dante Vitali," the second man said. "We need to know why." "I have not. Do not lie." The first man stepped closer. "We have seen you with him at the restaurant and in his car." "I am not." My voice cracked. "I am nothing to him." "Then you will not mind coming with us." They moved toward me and I realized with cold, sick certainty that I was not going to escape. And then the lights went out. The garage plunged into darkness. I heard a shout, confusion, and anger, and then the sharp crack of something heavy hitting flesh. A body hit the ground. Another shout cut off abruptly, and then silence. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath coming in short, desperate gasps, unable to see anything. "Julia." His voice was low, calm, and familiar. "Dante." I sagged with relief. The lights flickered back on, dim and stuttering, and I saw him standing in the center of the garage. The 2 men were on the ground, one unconscious, the other groaning and clutching his ribs. Dante stood over them, his hands relaxed at his sides, his suit jacket gone, and his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked at me, his expression hard. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, unable to speak. He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides, his hands framing my face, his gaze searching mine. "Did they touch you?" My voice broke. One of them grabbed me, but his jaw tightened, and for a moment I saw something cold and terrifying flicker in his eyes. He turned back to the men on the ground. "Chi vi manda?" he demanded. "Who sent you?" The conscious man spat blood onto the concrete. Dante's expression did not change. He crouched down, his movements slow and deliberate, and gripped the man's jaw. "I will ask once more, he said quietly. Chi vi manda? The man hesitated, fear flickering across his face. Salvatore, he whispered finally. Salvatore Russo. Dante released him, standing slowly. Pigliatelli, he said to someone behind me. Take them. I turned and saw two men in dark suits step out of the shadows. They hauled the attackers to their feet and dragged them toward the exit without a word. And then it was just Dante and me. He turned back to me, his expression softening slightly. You are coming with me, he said. I am fine. You are not. He took my hand gently but firmly. And you are not staying here. Dante, I cannot just... Giulia. His voice was quiet, but there was no room for argument. Please. I stared at him, my mind racing and my body still trembling, and then I nodded. He drove me to a house on the outskirts of the city, modern and sprawling, surrounded by high walls and iron gates. I did not ask whose it was. I already knew. Inside, the house was all clean lines and expensive furniture, but it felt cold and empty. Dante led me to a sitting room near the back where a fire burned in a stone fireplace. He gestured for me to sit and I sank onto the couch, my legs shaking. He poured something amber into a glass and handed it to me. Drink. I told you I do not drink. Drink it anyway. I took a sip and the burn of it steadied me slightly. Dante sat across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Who is Salvatore Russo? I asked quietly. A rival. Why does he care about me? Because he thinks you matter to me. Do I? He was silent for a long moment, his gaze steady on mine. Yes, he said finally. The word hit me like a fist. Why? I whispered. I do not know. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, I saw something like frustration in his expression. I did not plan this, Giulia. I did not plan you. Then let me go. I cannot. His voice was rough now. If I let you go, Salvatore will assume you are no longer under my protection, and he will come for you again. So what am I supposed to do? Stay here. Here, yes. I stared at him. For how long? As long as it takes. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. I set the glass down, my hands shaking. You are asking me to trust you. Yes, why should I? He leaned back, his gaze never leaving mine. Because if you do not, you will die. The bluntness of it stole my breath. And if I do, I asked quietly, then I will keep you alive. I looked at him, at the sharp lines of his face, the cold certainty in his eyes, and the tension coiled beneath his calm exterior, and I realized I did not have a choice. Not really. All right, I whispered. Dante nodded slowly. I will have someone bring your things in the morning, he said. For now, get some rest. Where will you be? Close. He stood and crossed to the door, but I stopped him. Dante. He turned. Thank you, I said quietly. For tonight. His expression softened just slightly. Non sei sola, Giulia, he said. I will not leave you alone, Giulia. And then he was gone. I did not sleep that night. I lay in the guest room Dante had shown me, spacious and impersonal, smelling faintly of lavender, and stared at the ceiling. My mind was racing. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt hands grabbing me, heard voices threatening me, and saw the cold efficiency with which Dante had dismantled two men without breaking a sweat. He had called it protection. It felt like captivity. By the time the sun rose, I was exhausted and restless. I found my way downstairs, following the smell of coffee, and discovered a kitchen that looked like something out of a design magazine. Marble countertops, stainless steel appliances, and windows overlooking a sprawling garden. A woman stood at the stove, middle-aged, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun. She looked up as I entered and smiled. Buongiorno, she said warmly. Giulia, vero. I nodded. I am Rosa. I keep the house. She gestured to the table. Sit. I will bring you breakfast. I can help. Sit, she repeated, her tone gentle but firm. I sat. She brought me espresso, fresh bread, fruit and cheese, all arranged on delicate porcelain. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing, my thoughts elsewhere. He is in the garden, Rosa said as if reading my mind. I looked up. Dante. Se, she smiled. He does not sleep much either. I found him near the back of the property, standing in a garden that should not have existed in late autumn. Roses climbed the stone walls, their petals deep red even in the cold. Herb beds lined the paths, their scents sharp and clean. A fountain stood at the center, water trickling softly. Dante stood beside it, his hands in his pockets and his gaze distant. He turned as I approached, and something in his expression shifted, softened. You are awake, he said. I could not sleep. Neither could I. We stood in silence for a moment, the only sound being the fountain and the distant hum of the city beyond the walls. "This is beautiful," I said finally. "My mother planted it." His voice was quiet. "Before she died." I looked at him, surprised. He had never mentioned his mother before. "She loved roses," he continued. "She said they were the only beautiful thing in an ugly world. Do you believe that?" He was silent for a long moment. "I used to," he said finally. We walked through the garden together, and for the first time, he did not feel like a stranger. He shared how his mother died when he was just 16 years old. His father became hardened after her death, a profound and lasting change. He was groomed to take over the family business, not understanding its true meaning at the time. "I did not want this life," he said quietly. "Not at first. What changed? I realized I did not have a choice." He glanced at me. "The moment I was born, my path was set. I could either accept it or destroy my family trying to escape. So you accepted it?" "Yes. Do you regret it?" He stopped walking, his gaze distant. "Every day. The honesty of it startled me." "Then why not leave?" "Because leaving does not erase what I have done." He turned to me, his expression hard. "I have hurt people, Julia. I have killed people. I have made choices that most people could not live with." "Then why tell me?" "Because you should know who I am." His voice was rough now. "You should know what you are involved in." I stared at him, my chest tight. "Are you trying to scare me?" "I am trying to be honest." "Why?" "Because you deserve it." The words hung between us, raw and unguarded. I looked away, my throat tight. "I do not understand you." "Good." He stepped closer and I felt the heat of him. "If you understood me, you would run." "Maybe I should anyway." "Maybe." His hand lifted and I felt his fingers brush against my cheek. It was barely a touch, but it burned. "But you will not." "How do you know?" "Because you are still here." I wanted to deny it. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, but I could not because he was not. "I need to ask you something," I said quietly. "All right. The men last night, what will happen to them?" Dante's expression did not change. "They will be dealt with." "That is not an answer." "Yes, it is, Giulia." "Dante," I said. "They tried to hurt you, Julia." His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Did you think I would let that go?" "I do not want anyone to die because of me." "They will not die because of you," he said. "They will die because they made a choice. They knew the consequences, and that makes it okay." "No." He stepped closer. "But it makes it necessary." I turned away, my stomach twisting. "I cannot do this," I whispered. "Do what?" "Live in a world where people die because they looked at me the wrong way." "You already do." His voice was quiet. "You just did not know it." I looked back at him, and the truth of it settled over me like a weight. He was right. I had already crossed a line I could not uncross. "I am afraid," I said finally. "Of me. Of this." I gestured around us. "Of what it means and of what I am becoming." "You are not becoming anything," he said gently. "You are just seeing the world as it is. And what if I do not want to see it? Then close your eyes." He reached out, his hand cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing against my skin. "But do not ask me to let you go because I will not." I stared at him, my breath catching. "Why?" "Because I do not want to. That is not a reason. It is the only one that matters." His gaze dropped to my mouth and I felt my pulse spike. "Don't. Tell me to stop," he murmured. I opened my mouth, but no words came. "Tell me you do not feel this," he continued, his voice low. "Tell me I am wrong." I could not because he was not. I felt it. The pull, the gravity of him, and the terrifying certainty that I was falling toward something I could not control. "I cannot," I whispered. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his fingers threading through my hair. "Then do not." And he kissed me. It was not gentle. It was not careful. It was desperate and fierce and full of something I could not name. I gasped against his mouth, my hands gripping his shirt, and he pulled me closer. His other arm wrapped around my waist, holding me like I might disappear. And for a moment, I let myself fall. I let myself forget the danger, the fear, and the impossibility of it all. I let myself feel. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "Julia," he murmured, his forehead resting against mine. "Non saprei che fare con te." "I do not know what to do with you." I did not answer. I did not know either. But as I stood there in his arms, surrounded by roses and silence, I realized something terrifying. I did not want to leave. Dante stepped back first. His hands fell away from me slowly and reluctantly, and the cold air rushed in to fill the space where his warmth had been. "I should not have done that," he said quietly. "Why not?" "Because you are not ready." "How do you know?" He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Because you are trembling." I realized he was right. My hands were shaking. My breath was uneven. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I am not afraid of you, I said. I know. His voice was soft. You are afraid of yourself. The truth of it stole my breath. I spent the rest of the day avoiding him. Rosa showed me around the house, the library, the sitting rooms, and the sprawling kitchen. She talked about Dante's mother, about the family, about the garden, and the meals she used to cook, but I barely heard her. All I could think about was the intensity of the kiss, and his hands against my skin. His voice had dropped intimately when he said my name. I wanted and needed him to keep touching me. It terrified me. That night, I could not sleep again. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Around midnight, I gave up. I pulled on a sweater and padded downstairs, thinking I would make tea, read a book, anything to quiet the noise in my head. But when I reached the kitchen, I found Dante sitting at the table. He was still dressed, though his shirt was untucked and his sleeves rolled up. A glass of whiskey sat in front of him, mostly full. He looked up as I entered, and for a moment neither of us spoke. "Cannot sleep?" he asked finally. "No, neither can I." I crossed to the counter and filled the kettle just to have something to do with my hands. "You do not have to avoid me," he said quietly. "I am not avoiding you." "Yes, you are." I turned to face him. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing." He leaned back in his chair. "I just do not want you to be afraid of me." "I told you I am not." "Then why will you not look at me?" I forced myself to meet his gaze, and the intensity of it made my breath catch. "I do not know what this is," I said quietly. "I do not know what you want from me. I want you to stop pretending you do not feel this." "I am not pretending." "Yes, you are." He stood, crossing the kitchen slowly. "You felt it the night you got in my car. You felt it at the restaurant. You felt it this morning in the garden." "Dante," I said. "Tell me I am wrong," he said, stopping in front of me. "Tell me you do not think about me." I opened my mouth, but no words came. "Tell me you do not want this," he continued, his voice dropping. "And I will walk away." I stared at him, my pulse racing. "I cannot," I whispered. "Why not?" "Because it is not that simple." "Yes, it is." "No." I shook my head. "You are asking me to choose something I do not understand. You are asking me to trust you when I barely know you. You are asking me to give you something I cannot take back." His expression softened and he reached out, his hand cupping my cheek. "I know," he said quietly, "and I am not asking lightly." "Then why are you asking at all?" "Because I do not want to lose you." The rawness in his voice made my chest ache. "You barely know me," I whispered. "I know enough." "How?" "Because you are still here." His thumb brushed against my cheek. "You could have run a dozen times. You could have told me to leave you alone, but you did not. That does not mean anything. It means everything." He leaned closer, and I felt his breath against my lips. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. "Tell me you do not want this." I could not because I did want it. I wanted him, and that terrified me more than anything. This time when he kissed me, it was different. Slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the shape of me. I gasped against his mouth and his hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer. I gripped his shirt, my fingers twisting in the fabric, and he made a low sound in his throat that sent heat flooding through me. "Julia," he whispered against my lips. "Tell me you want this." My voice broke. "I do not know what I want." "Yes, you do." His hands moved to my hips, lifting me onto the counter, and I gasped, my legs parting instinctively to make room for him. He stepped between them, his hands framing my face and his gaze locked on mine. "I will not hurt you," he said quietly. "You cannot promise that." "I can." His forehead rested against mine. "I will not let anyone touch you. Not Salvatore. Not anyone." "And what about you?" I asked. "What about me? Will you hurt me?" He was silent for a long moment. "I do not know," he said finally, his voice rough, "but I will try not to." It was not the answer I wanted, but it was honest, and somehow that was enough. He carried me upstairs. I did not protest. I did not speak. I just buried my face in his neck and let him take me to his room. It was larger than the guest room and darker, smelling of cedar and something faintly spiced. He set me down gently, his hands lingering on my waist. "If you want to stop," he said quietly, "tell me. I will walk you back to your room. No questions. And if I do not want to stop?" His gaze darkened. "Allora restiamo sea." "Then we stay here." I looked at him, at the sharp lines of his face, the tension coiled in his shoulders, and the way he was holding himself back, waiting for me to decide. And I realized I had already decided days ago, maybe weeks ago, maybe the moment I had answered him in Sicilian. "I do not want to stop," I whispered. He undressed me slowly and reverently, like I was something precious. Every touch was careful. Every kiss was soft. he murmured to me in Sicilian words I barely understood, words that felt like promises. And when he finally moved over me, his weight settling between my thighs, I felt something shift inside me. Not fear, not doubt, just surrender. Stati tranquilla, he whispered. Stay calm. I nodded, my hands gripping his shoulders, and he kissed me again, deep and slow and impossibly gentle. And then he was inside me. I gasped, my nails digging into his back. He stilled immediately, his gaze searching mine. Are you all right? I nodded, unable to speak. Julia, do not stop, I whispered, and he did not. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his arm around my waist and my head on his chest. I could hear his heartbeat, steady, strong, and impossibly calm. Are you all right? He asked quietly. I think so. You think so? I smiled faintly. I do not know. I have never done this before. He went still. Never. I shook my head. He was silent for a long moment, and then he pulled me closer, his lips brushing against my forehead. Grazie, he murmured. For what? For trusting me. I did not answer because I was not sure if I did, but I knew I wanted to. I woke to an empty bed. The sheets beside me were cold. The indentation where Dante had been was barely visible. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and gray. I sat up slowly, my body aching in unfamiliar ways, and pulled the blanket around me. The house was silent, too silent. I found Rosa in the kitchen, her expression tight. Where is Dante? I asked. He left early. She did not meet my eyes. He will be back soon. Where did he go? Lavoro, she said quietly. Work. But the way she said it made my stomach twist. He came back 3 hours later. I was in the library pretending to read when I heard the front door open and close. I set the book aside and went downstairs. Dante stood in the foyer, his back to me, his jacket draped over one arm, and his hands were covered in blood. I froze, my breath catching. He turned slowly, and when he saw me, his expression did not change. Go upstairs, he said quietly. What happened, Julia? What happened? He was silent for a long moment, his gaze steady on mine. I dealt with Salvatore, he said finally. The words hung in the air, cold and final. What does that mean? It means he will not come for you again. Dante, I said, I am not discussing this. You do not get to decide that. Yes, I though. His voice was hard now. You wanted to be safe. I made you safe by killing him. He did not answer, and that was answer enough. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking. He followed me. Julia, wait. Do not. I spun to face him. Do not tell me this is normal. Do not tell me it is necessary. It is necessary. He stepped closer, and I saw something raw in his eyes. He sent men to hurt you. He would have kept sending them. I could not let that happen. So you killed him. Yes. And that is supposed to make me feel safe. It is supposed to keep you alive. I stared at him, my chest tight. I cannot do this, I whispered. Yes, you can. No. I shook my head. I cannot be with someone who... Who what? He interrupted. Who protects you? Who makes sure you do not end up in a ditch somewhere because a rival decided you were a weakness? Who kills people? I have always killed people, Julia. His voice was quiet now, almost gentle. Last night did not change that. It just made you see it. I turned away, my throat tight. I need time, I said. You do not have time, Dante said. There are others like Salvatore, he continued. Men who will see you as a target, and if I am not here, if you leave, they will come for you. Then let them. No. The finality of it made me flinch. You do not own me, I said quietly. I know. He stepped closer and I felt his hand on my shoulder. But I am not letting you go. I spent the rest of the day alone. I couldn't look at him. I could not bear the weight of what he had done for me and because of me. That night I stood in the garden staring at the roses. They were beautiful and perfect, even in the cold, but all I could think about was the blood on his hands. Julia. I turned. Dante stood at the edge of the garden, his hands in his pockets and his expression unreadable. I am sorry, he said quietly. For what? For frightening you. You did not frighten me. Yes, I did. I looked away. I do not know how to do this. Do what? Love someone who is capable of. I stopped, unable to finish. Killing. I nodded. He crossed the garden slowly, stopping in front of me. I do not expect you to, he said quietly. I do not expect you to understand it or accept it. I just need you to believe one thing. What? That I would do anything to keep you safe. His hand lifted and I felt his fingers brush against my cheek. Anything. Julia, even if it costs me everything. I stared at him, my chest aching. I do not want it to cost you anything, I whispered. It already has. What do you mean? He was silent for a long moment. I was supposed to marry someone else, he said finally. A woman from another family. It was arranged years ago. My stomach dropped. What? I broke the engagement 3 days ago. Why? Because of you. The words hit me like a blow. Dante, I said. I told them I would not go through with it. He continued, that I had found someone else. You should not have done that. I know. You have put yourself in danger. I know. Then why? Because I do not want her. His gaze was fierce now, unyielding. I want you. I stared at him, unable to speak. I know it is selfish, he said quietly. I know I am asking too much, but I cannot let you go, even if it destroys you. Even then, I kissed him. I did not mean to and I did not plan it, but I could not stand the distance between us anymore. He made a low sound against my mouth, his arms wrapping around me, pulling me closer. Julia, he murmured. Ti voglio. I want you. I know, I whispered. Non lasciarmi. Do not leave me. I will not. He lifted me into his arms and I buried my face in his neck, breathing him in. And as he carried me back to the house, I realized something terrifying. I was not afraid of him anymore. I was afraid of how much I needed him. The next morning, everything changed. I woke to the sound of shouting downstairs. Loud and angry. In rapid Italian I could not quite follow. I dressed quickly and hurried down. Dante stood in the foyer, facing 3 men in dark suits. His posture was tense and his jaw was tight. And even from the stairs, I could feel the danger in the air. One of the men saw me and sneered. Equila. This is her. Dante's hand shot out, grabbing the man by the collar. Attento, he said quietly. Careful. The man raised his hand, stepping back. We are not here to hurt her, another man said, his voice smoother. We are here to talk. About what? About the mess you have made. Dante's expression did not change, but I saw his shoulders tighten. Get upstairs, he said to me without looking. No, he turned, his gaze sharp. Julia, I am not leaving. This does not concern you. It does if it is about me. The smooth-voiced man smiled. She is bold. I see why you like her. Dante's jaw clenched. Say what you came to say. Luca. Luca gestured around the room. You broke your engagement. You killed Salvatore. You have made an enemy of his family. All for a woman who is not even part of our world. She is now. Is she? Luca's gaze slid to me. Does she understand what that means? The danger and the obligations. She understands enough. Does she understand that staying with you could get her killed? Yes, I said before Dante could answer. Luca looked at me, surprised. I understand. I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I understand that being with him is dangerous, that people like you see me as a weakness, that I am a target, and yet you are still here. Yes. Why? I looked at Dante, and his gaze softened. Because I choose to be, I said quietly. Luca studied me for a long moment, then laughed, low and humorless. You are either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. He shook his head. Dante, I hope you know what you are doing. I do. Then you had better be ready for the consequences. Luca turned toward the door and the other men followed. Salvatore's brothers are already moving. They will come for her. And when they do, you had better hope you are strong enough to stop them. The door closed behind them, and the silence that followed felt suffocating. Dante turned to me, his expression hard. You should not have come down. They were talking about me. That does not mean I am not hiding anymore, Dante. I crossed my arms. If I am going to be part of your world, I need to know what is happening. You are not part of my world. Yes, I am. I stepped closer. You made me part of it the moment you decided I mattered. He stared at me, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. I am trying to protect you, he said quietly. I know. Then let me. I am. I reached for his hand and he let me take it. But I need you to let me protect myself too. How? By telling me the truth. All of it. He was silent for a long moment, then nodded. All right. We sat in the library and he told me everything. About Salvatore's brothers. 3 of them, each more dangerous than the last. About the alliances shifting in the city, the families choosing sides, and the quiet war brewing beneath the surface. About the woman he had been engaged to, Alessandra, daughter of a powerful family in Naples, and the fury her father had unleashed when Dante broke the contract. He has called for a meeting, Dante said. In 3 days. He wants me to explain myself. What will you tell him? The truth. That you chose me over his daughter. Yes, I stared at him. That is going to start a war. I know. And you are willing to risk that. Yes. Why? He looked at me, his gaze steady. Because you are worth it. That night, I could not sleep. I lay beside Dante, listening to his breathing, my mind racing. He had broken an engagement for me. He had killed a man for me. He had put himself and his entire family in danger for me. And I did not know if I was strong enough to carry that weight. The next morning, I made a decision. I found Dante in his study, reviewing documents. His expression focused. "I want to meet them," I said. He looked up. "Who?" "Salvatore's brothers. Alessandra's father. All of them." "No," Dante said. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because it is too dangerous." "Everything is dangerous," I said. "But if I am going to survive this, I need to stop being invisible. I need them to see me as more than just a weakness." "You are not a weakness." "Then let me prove it." He stared at me, his jaw tight. "If something happens to you, it will not. You cannot know that. Neither can you." I crossed the room and took his hand. "But I am not asking for your permission. I am telling you what I am going to do." He was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. "All right." The meeting was held in a private dining room at an upscale restaurant, the kind of place where deals were made and lives were decided over wine and pasta. I wore a simple black dress, my hair pulled back, and no jewelry except the thin gold chain my grandmother had given me. Dante walked beside me, his hand resting lightly on my lower back, his presence a constant grounding weight. "Remember," he said quietly as we approached the door, "say as little as possible. Let me handle this." "All right. And if anything happens, it will not." He looked at me, his expression unreadable, then pushed the door open. Inside, 5 men sat around a long table. I recognized Luca immediately. The others I did not know, except for the man at the head of the table. He was older, gray-haired, with sharp eyes and a face carved from stone. Alessandra's father. "Dante," he said, his voice cold. "You are late. My apologies. Don Ricci." Don Ricci's gaze slid to me. "And this is the woman. Her name is Giulia," Dante said evenly. "I know her name." Don Ricci gestured to the empty chairs. "Sit." We sat. The silence that followed was suffocating. "You broke your word," Don Ricci said finally, his gaze locked on Dante. "You dishonored my daughter. And for what? A girl with no family, no connections, and no power." "She has me," Dante said quietly. "Is that supposed to be enough?" "Yes." Don Ricci laughed, cold and humorless. "You are a fool, Dante. You have thrown away an alliance that could have secured your family's future. And for what? Love. Yes, love is a weakness." "No," I said before I could stop myself. "It is not." Every head turned toward me. Dante's hand tightened on mine. A silent warning. But I did not look away from Don Ricci. "Love makes you vulnerable," Don Ricci said. "It makes you reckless. It also makes you stronger," I replied. "It gives you something to fight for and something worth protecting. And you think you are worth protecting. I think Dante does." Don Ricci studied me, his expression unreadable. "You have courage," he said finally. "I will give you that. Thank you. But courage will not keep you alive. Maybe not." I lifted my chin. "But neither will fear." A faint smile touched his mouth. "You are not what I expected." "Good." He leaned back, his gaze shifting to Dante. "She is sharp. I see why you are willing to risk everything. Then you will accept this," Dante said. "No." The word hung in the air like a blade. "But," Don Ricci continued, "I will not start a war over it. Not yet. What do you want?" "Compensation for the insult to my daughter." "Name it." Don Ricci named a sum that made my stomach drop. Dante did not hesitate. "Done." The meeting ended an hour later, and we left the restaurant in silence. But as we reached the car, Dante stopped and turned to me. "You should not have spoken," he said. "I know. You could have made things worse." "I know, but you did not." He cupped my face, his gaze fierce. "You made them see you. Is that a good thing?" "Yes." He kissed me, slow and deep, and full of something I could not name. "Ti amo," he murmured against my lips. "I love you." I stared at him, my breath catching. "You do not have to say it back," he continued. "I just needed you to know." "Dante," I said. "I mean it, Giulia. I love you and I am not letting you go." I kissed him again, my hands gripping his shirt, and whispered, "I love you too." 3 months later, the war Don Ricci had threatened never came. Salvatore's brothers made one attempt, a single failed attack that ended with 2 of them dead and the 3rd fleeing the city. Dante's family accepted me slowly and reluctantly, but they accepted me, and I learned to live in his world. It was not easy. It was not safe, but it was mine. I stood in the garden, surrounded by roses, watching the sun set over the city. Dante came up behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist and his chin resting on my shoulder. "Regret it yet?" he murmured. Every day, I replied. He laughed soft and warm. Liar. I turned in his arms, my hands resting on his chest. I love you, I said. I know, even though I am dangerous. Because you are dangerous. I smiled. Maybe. He kissed me, slow and sweet, and I felt the weight of the past months settle into something softer. Not gone, not forgotten, but bearable. And in the distance, beyond the walls and the roses and the fading light, the city hummed with life. Dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But I was not afraid anymore, because I was not alone.